I'm one of those guys that hesitate to use the C word, capitalism. I feel.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it, whatever it originally meant,
Yeah.
and I never thought the market process was fundamentally about capital
Yeah.
accumulation.
Yeah.
But particularly young people today, when they hear the word capitalism,
Yeah.
what they really hear is cronyism, because
Yeah.
they grew up watching Wall Street get bailed out by politicians in Washington D.C.
I call that capitalism, but go ahead.
Capitalism. Yeah.
But okay.
I'll use that.
Okay.
It's but I'm thinking, as I do, I love to think about dead economists, and Ludwig von Mises described the market as a process.
Yeah.
And I've taken that and I've bastardized it, and if it's just this process of people just trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And part of the way they do that is through competition. Part of the way they do that is through cooperation.
Yeah.
It's iterations of mistakes and successes, just trying to make your way through this
trial and error,
unknowable future world.
Yeah.
And to me, like, there's got to be a way to explain capitalism without calling it capitalism, so that people that think they're socialists, but they're not socialists. They're about bottom up. They're about community. They're about people figuring stuff out. That's what freedom allows you to do. A central plan never gets you there.
Yeah, well, no, I basically agree with you, and I find I love semantics, I love linguistics, and thinking about words and what they mean, and how they change their meaning over time. It certainly fascinates me. Of course, we have the term free market. I'm only concerned, having debated the issue and having seen so many young people out there with their knives out for me, with respect to the arguments I make. If I say free market, they're going to laugh. But indeed, I guess I've settled on the idea of accepting the word capitalism, although I grant your point that you don't necessarily have to accept it, and I think that's part of your style and part of who you are. I define myself basically as an economist who knows numbers and who can cite numbers like, the lower 90% accounts for nearly 80% of all consumer spending, and that the lower 90% is presumably your proletariat, right? The other 10% are the capitalists, more or less, but they control the consumer dollar, and they can use the consumer dollar to favor worker-owned firms. So I start with that. But getting back to the point, so I settle on capitalism for my crony capitalism, and then use the word capitalism, partly because I suppose when I define capitalism, which I get, or the free market, where I think would it be, or unless you want to modify my definition, which is that we do have to say that it is property rights in the means of production enforced by law, be it an ANCAP kind of society or a Minikis kind of society, but there is legal rights in that property in the means of production, and means of production, despite all the intangible capital out there, which I think is a fascinating subject in itself, the capital that you can't touch, which is extremely valuable. And of course, your Kibbe Inc. is intangible capital. Of course, you've got that. You've got this tent, and you've got that.
I mean, it's huge. It's a big enterprise.
Big enterprise. So you've got that trailer, so you have property rights in that means of production that helps produce the kibbutznik, the Kibbe output, and so on. And you have those properties. My point is that I have to say assertively that it is that. I'm not going to be squishy and not define what I mean. I'm just, as I say, it just means that then let 100 flowers bloom. So that's why I'm sort of stuck with it. But I know, look, I could talk about what you were saying the other day. Enjoyed your talk when you were talking about selfishness versus being unselfish. And of course, I had a debate with Yaron Brook about selfishness. By the way, Yaron Brook is Randian, and I have to say, privately, I'm happy to notice that the last time I encountered Yaron, I had him debate John Mackey. He was using the word self-interest, not selfishness.
Yeah.
And indeed, obviously, self-interest, which is a term that was used by obviously Adam Smith most famously, and gets back to an old Jewish saying, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? All of that is healthy, but I wanted Yaron to understand that, just as you said, by the way, and as I put it when I debated Yaron, that if I had spent my first 22 years under the yoke of Bolshevism, where they keep telling me you're selfish unless you serve the state, and I should add, I met some young people in Romania, in Bucharest, who loved Ayn Rand and who loved her selfishness as a virtue thing, because they too were told, you're selfish unless you serve the state. I would shout to the rooftops that selfishness is a virtue.